So, I want to talk a little bit more about AIDS, and I want to talk about Stranger Things and how it connects to, in a sense, it connects to, what I was saying about AIDS and other, plagues and viruses as well. Anything that is born on this planet, I'm talking about any kind of illness, any kind of illness that is born on this planet in this dimension, they can find a cure for, right? But of course, they say, you hear a lot of conspiracy theorists say, and it may be credible that there are cures for all of these diseases, and I'm not disputing that. Just put that to the side for a moment. Let's just say that they're telling the truth when they say that there's no cure for AIDS and certain cancers and shit like that. Let's just say that they're telling the truth, although we know they might be bullshitting. But let's just say they're telling the truth. If there's anything in this world that is born in this dimension like an illness, then you better believe that there is a cure or some kind of treatment for it. But when it comes to complex organisms, because AIDS is a parasite, when it comes to a complex organism or a virus like AIDS, the reason they probably cannot find a cure for it is not because for lack of trying. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here because I don't think they are as clever as we think they are. People say they have cures for all these diseases. I don't know. I don't know. But when it comes to a complex virus, as they call it, like AIDS, the reason they cannot find a cure for it is because it did not originate in this dimension. It did not originate in this world. It originated from another dimension, from another world. That is where it originated. I'm going to talk about a few things in this video that I find, interesting, that I've peeped. And I'm going to talk about Stranger Things season 3. I'm already into 2 episodes, or I don't know. I think I just watched the third episode of season 3. I'm not certain, but it's good. It's good this season. So if AIDS, let's just say, and you all can think that I'm crazy or not, but I'm thinking outside the box. That is what expanding your consciousness is all about. It's not about thinking about what other people say or regurgitating what other people say. It's about thinking outside the fucking box. And that's what I do. Everyone is so quick to blame AIDS on homosexuality. And see, that was the plan all along. You see, they pulled that motherfucking illness from another fucking dimension while they were doing experiments. While they were doing experiments in these fucking labs, something must have got out of hand and they couldn't contain it. And the little bit that they did contain, they probably decided, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do experiments on the most smallest community that we know no one would give a fuck about, and that's the gay community. That is why AIDS started affecting gay men, black and white, back in the 80s. Because that was a purposeful, calculated fucking move as a result of their experimentation and them pulling something out of another fucking dimension. Okay? And it all ties back into Stranger Things this season. In the town of Hawkins, this season, last season, they took down the lab, but these labs, we come to find out, these labs that are responsible for all kinds of nefarious experiments, they weren't not just in a small town in Hawkins, they were also in Russia. There was a lab in Russia. Now this is all according to the storyline. And they too were doing their own experiments in these labs, tapping into other dimensions and pulling out entities or shit that could cause harm to people in this dimension. In this season, rats have been infected by some form of mutation. The rats in Hawkins have been, they've been going crazy. Okay, if you watch the season, and if you're watching the episodes or whatever the case may be, you know what I am referring to. Okay, they are going fucking crazy. And this now, season three, according to the storyline and the synopsis, takes place in 1985. Now remember, around 1985 is when the AIDS epidemic really got to the forefront and it really got popping. Okay, around that time, as I stated in my other video, they pulled something from that dimension and it got out, and it's causing people to be sick, and it's causing people to act crazy, especially the rats right now. But something else is taking place too. And see, this is where now I'm going to put that to the side about AIDS. I just wanted to wrap that up a little bit more and talk about that a little bit more because nobody else talks about it. So I'm going to talk about it. Now, put the AIDS to the side for a minute. Now, in one of those episodes of this season on Stranger Things, one of the characters, I think his name is Billy. I'm not mistaken, but he's this white boy lifeguard. He's a total fucking asshole. I think he's a racist too, because he doesn't like the fact that his sister is dating that young black boy. He rides past a warehouse where these rats have ran into, and he's pulled into this warehouse by this force. And this force, I believe, is the same force that was tormenting the town of Hawkins last season. And remember, it took them into a another dimension that was a doppelganger to that dimension, but subliminally and subconscious, not subconscious, but symbolically, they really went into the astral plane. That is where they went into, because a lot of times when Elle has those, Elle, the little white girl with all the power, when she has those moments where she goes into meditation, she's going into a form of the astral plane, of the astral world. So Billy, getting back to Billy, he's pulled into this other dimension. And in this dimension, he meets his doppelganger. And if you don't know what a doppelganger is, he meets his twin, his clone, his double. So here is where I'm going with this as well. This is what I really wanted to talk about. So when people are talking about other people being cloned and other people not being the same person, see, a lot of times we're thinking in layman's terms, or we're thinking, you know, just on the surface. Let me just say that. We're thinking about surface level stuff. But has it ever occurred to anyone that just like they pull illnesses from these other dimensions, or these, plagues, just like they pull them from these other dimensions, has it ever occurred to anyone that the people that they refer to as clones, could these people be others or doubles from another fucking dimension? Has that ever occurred to anyone? Let me say that again. Maybe I might sound convoluted, when I'm channeling and when I'm getting information and shit. Sometimes it may not come out right. What if what we call doubles or clones? What if they are not created in a lab like so many of us think? What if actually some of them, maybe some are created in a lab too. I'm not disputing or dismissing that. But what if they are pulling these people or these doubles from other dimensions? Because we all do have doubles. I've seen mine. My double has actually tried to contact me in another dimension. Okay? I've seen my doppelganger. We all have doppelgangers in other dimensions, other versions of ourselves in other realities. So that's a better word. What if they are pulling these doubles, what we call clones? What if they are pulling them out of these other realities and passing them off as the original person, and killing the original person who was born in this reality? There's another show that comes on that really delves into this, and it's called The Man in the High Castle. OMG. That show is off the motherfucking chain. And as a matter of fact, it will be coming back on pretty soon, and it will be the last season. And I'm so upset that it's the last season because that's a good motherfucking show. And the first time that I saw the previews for it and I ran across it, I was like, this is about some Nazi Germany shit. I was like, I don't know if I want to see this. Some war shit. I said, I don't want to see this. But no, it is so much more than that. The Man in the High Castle is about a theoretical, well, not a theoretical, but it's about a hypothetical or theoretical, whichever one you want to call it. But what it's about is a future in an alternate reality, not a future, but in an alternate reality where Nazi Germany actually won World War II and invaded the United States, and the Japanese won as well. So, in a alternate reality, Nazi Germany wins World War II, invades the United States. Japan also wins World War II and invades the United States, and they split the country in half. Excuse me. Nazi Germany, the Third Reich, they controlled the East Coast. Okay, they controlled the East Coast. The Japanese controlled the Pacific states, Washington, California. Okay, and in the middle they called that some kind of zone, the free zone or something like that. I can't remember. You know, I can't remember. But they're looking for this man called the Man in the High Castle because he has access to these tapes. Not tapes, they are films. Films that, the old time films that roll. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name of it right now, but films. He has access to these films in alternate realities that show Nazi Germany being defeated and Japan being bombed by the atomic bomb. And the Nazis are trying to go into this reality, or whatever the case may be, or they're not trying to go into that reality. I take that back. They're trying to open up portals into different planes of existence and into different realities and timelines. Okay? So all of this shit is interconnected. All of it is interconnected. They're telling you a story. Some shit that went down that we probably were too asleep to miss. Could it be that Nazi Germany and Japan really did win the war, and somebody went and tampered with the timeline? Because in The Man in the High Castle, as I stated, they're trying to find this man who has all of these tapes, not tapes again, films that depict the Nazis and the Japanese being defeated in World War II. And the Nazis and the Japanese They're trying to find him to kill him and get those tapes because they don't want the public to see it or to know that. See, that's the mind control right there. And we're living in that motherfucking shit right now where they don't want us to see certain things because they know it would reveal and expose the truth about what's really going on and what the real apple scrapple is. You feel what I'm saying? So I would encourage people to look at Stranger Things. There's a lot of stuff, I really wasn't into it at first. Stranger Things, I wasn't into. I had to go back and actually look at it after the seasons went off because I was like, and plus I don't have Netflix. I have an Amazon Fire Stick. You feel what I'm saying? So I can look at whatever I want to. I don't have Netflix. But it's very interesting watching this shit play out because it makes my subconscious mind go, and it expands my consciousness, and it allows me to pick up on things subliminally that they're trying to hide. So they go into these small towns, set up these labs, and do these nefarious experiments. You see what I'm saying? And another thing too. In Stranger Things, the portal that leads to this other dimension, they call it they call that dimension something in, I forgot what they call it. I forget what they call it, but they call that particular dimension. They don't call it the astral world or another dimension. They call it, I forgot what they call it, but they call it a specific name. But there's a portal in these labs where these scientists are conducting these nefarious experiments, trying to go into other realities and dimensions. There's a portal on the wall, and this portal looks like a black woman's vagina. Now you tell me that ain't a cold motherfucking subliminal message. It looks like a black woman's vagina. Yep, a black woman's vagina. So again, who's to say that they did not pull AIDS in one of these labs? Who's to say that they did not pull AIDS from another dimension? They pulled that virus into our dimension and it caused havoc with them doing their experiments and bullshit like that. And then they put it on the gay community, and then they put it on green monkeys in Africa and all that old dumb bullshit. And as I stated, they had in Stranger Things, they have these labs all around the world that are tapping into and going into other realities and other dimensions. And they're always pulling out some form of mutation or some entity that causes harm to the people in this dimension. And what I'm saying is that is what AIDS is. AIDS was some form of virus from another realm that they pulled into this fucking dimension. It's probably not even called AIDS. It's probably not even called, that's just the name they gave it. Some form of non earthly virus or non earthly mutation they brought into this motherfucker. Look at Stranger Things. They're telling you a story and they're trying to cover it with all of the, all of the glamour. Not glamour as far as beauty and fanciness. No, I'm talking about the glamour. Glamour is a form of magic. Glamour is when you use a form of illusionary magic to make something appear that it's not. You understand what I'm saying? Like changing your hair blonde when your hair is really a brunette. And I'm only thinking about that because there was a movie where they talked about that. But glamour can also be used on a grand scale. It can be used, the media uses glamour all the time to twist things. That's a form of witchcraft. To twist things, to make things seem like there's something that they're not. I'll give you a prime example. In the movie The Craft, for those people who are 90s people like me, in the movie The Craft, remember when Sarah's coven turned against her? Um, they made it look like her parents, her father and her stepmother, were killed in a plane crash. And the more conscious I became, I realized, I said, oh, so that is what, when I started thinking back on all of the movies and stuff that I've looked at and all the hidden subliminal messages, I said, oh, so that is what they do in the media too. In the news, they tell us shit that's not true as a way to put us up under a certain amount of mind control or a spell. So what I'm saying is that in Stranger Things 3, there's so many, different things going on within that, television show. People are probably not paying attention to the hidden messages that are within it. They do these experiments all the time in these small towns. They did a lot of them in the 1980s, it seems as though, because like I said, there was another movie. I said this in the video that I did yesterday or the day before, on AIDS, being an experiment. Um, there was a movie called Strange Invaders that came out in 1983 about a small town where these aliens came into this small town and they were, trying to take over. And some of them were posing as human beings. Some of them were posing as human beings. And what's interesting is that in Stranger Things, there was a scene in one of those episodes that I watched yesterday in season 3. I don't know if it was the third or the second episode, where this mutation that has been, hiding in rats and causing rats to mutate and become sick. This mutation went into an elderly woman, and it caused her to eat fertilizer, just as it caused the rats to eat fertilizer as well. Okay? So they're pulling, I guess you can say, certain entities, or they're pulling energies, or they're pulling shit from these other realities or these other dimensions. And then when those things get into this dimension, it causes harm. And then they come up with it, oh, it's a plague, it's a virus. Same thing with, I guess you can say, with the other viruses and things that they come up with. How do we know? I'm just trying to get people to think. How do we know that they are not pulling these things from other dimensions and bringing them into this dimension? And then when they try to experiment on these things, it becomes a mutation and it gets out of hand. And then they start looking for groups of people to blame. That's what they did with the gay community. Once it got out of hand, they went and infected the gay community, and then they weaponized it, of course, as a biological weapon. They went out and infected the gay community and said, "Oh, well, they're gay, so that's why they're getting it." You see, it's not even about whether you like gay people or not. Who gives a fuck at this point in time in history? It's about you thinking about what's really happening around you and thinking about the bigger fucking picture. That's what it's about, in my opinion. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything, by the way. I'm just talking. It's about looking at the bigger picture of what could be going on right in your own backyard. Like I said, they keep talking about, people are always talking about people getting cancer nowadays, people not living as long. Well, why would we live as long as we used to? This planet is polluted and corrupted with all forms of, diseases and pestilence and, pollution from all of the nuclear wars and all of the poison that's in the air. Do you really think that this planet has never had a nuclear war? That's what they tell us. Our houses, our apartment buildings, all of that shit is built over corpses and more corpses and more corpses and more corpses. There have been Our civilization is built over other civilizations, like I told you yesterday. So it's a lot of shit that's going on. It's a lot of shit that's going on, and the only thing that you can do is expand your consciousness and elevate yourself to a higher vibration. Then that way the shit won't affect you the same way, because it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect me. I'm just a voice speaking from the darkness because I see from the dark. I see what's going on. I see. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to say. But check out Stranger Things season 3. It's a very interesting show. I didn't think I could get into it, but I actually was able to get into it very well. It is a very interesting show, and it has a lot of subliminal messages in it. I'm almost ready to say that I like it a lot better than American Horror Story, because the problem with American Horror Story, and I'm going to close out after I say this. The problem with that show is that when it first started out, they had some pretty good actors and actresses on it. But then, Ryan Murphy, he's a gay white man, and of course, he's going to shape the show in his vision. So he keeps hiring these corny, gay, white male actors who cannot act. And then, people only want them on the show because they think they're attractive, and most of them are not even that all that, attractive. So they're only putting them on there because they're young, gay, and white, and they're supposed to be sex symbols. But there's no real talent there. Now, Zachary, I think his name is Zachary Quinto. He's gay in real life. He played Dr. Threatson in season 2, and he was one of those guys in the murder house. He was the gay. He was the guy with the black hair that was in the murder house. He was a gay couple. Him and his husband. He's a good motherfucking actor. He can act his motherfucking ass off. He can act his ass off. But Billy Eichner, he ain't no fucking good. See, that's the problem with American Horror Story. See, Ryan Murphy, he keeps it keeps going further and further and further down. And that's just like an American Horror Story Apocalypse. He should not have hired Cody Fern to play the Antichrist. He should have Finn Whitrock, or what's his name, Evan Peters, should have played the Antichrist. Not no motherfucking Cody Fern. Okay? But Ryan Murphy, he hires people he doesn't hire based upon talent anymore. The first 3 or 4 seasons when Jessica Lange was on there, it was good. I did like Hotel, but season 6, 7, and 8, they were garbage. They were some garbage, you know. But again, it still has some good subliminal, hidden messages in it that I picked up on. And I liked it for that reason and that reason alone. But anyway, check out Stranger Things season 3. It's really interesting. And what's even more interesting is that we're getting ready to be back up under that energy in 2020. Because remember, 1984, which will be the upcoming title for season 9 of American Horror Story, 1984. And we're getting ready to be back up under that energy. Remember, I told you when you break down those years to the single number, it comes out as 3, 4, whatever. 1984 was the year 4. We're getting ready to go back into that in 2020. Okay? Don't even pay no attention to the zeros. Okay? We're about to be back up under that energy. So it's going to be very interesting seeing, what's going to be unfolding, in the year 2020 for people who don't have access to esoteric knowledge within themselves. I'm not talking about trying to be a guru and trying to, tell other people what you learned from somebody else or a book. I'm talking about getting information from self. and trusting self. But anyway, that's all I really wanted to say. And let me say this too. I am going to start doing readings and consultations again, but my services are only going to be for Black gay men, Black bisexual men, Black DL men, or Black men who are just confused about their sexual orientation. Okay? Because sometimes I'm going to come back and make another video about that. I'm going to close this out. I don't want to mix it in with this video. But thank you for watching. Whatever.